Everyone, you are welcome to Network Pips. So all this while we have been running just a single container images using just Docker and then specify the container image and also maybe the port which you want to expose, and we'll have our container running. But in software development, that will not always be the case. Software application will always have need to communicate with each other, just like when you go to your maybe your Facebook and you do maybe send a friend request, or you do all those calls we are making from the web from the web browser, which is the front end of the application. We always send a request to the back end, which is another service as well. So you can see this, there are two different services communicating with one another. So you can imagine, let me take for example an e-commerce website like Jumia. You understand? There we might have the front end talking to the back end when a user make a made an or place an order or made a request, something like that. And maybe inside that service as well, you might have a payment service, we might have an inventory service where we keep all our items, might have a catalog, might have a catalog service, and I can go on and go on with different kind of service I can cut out from this particular e-commerce site. You understand? So you can see, if I want to deploy this service now as a container, I'll come here, maybe do sudo docker run, right? Then specify maybe the front end, right? The front end, then run it, do the other one for the back end, do the other one for the payment service. You can see where I'm going to, where I'm driving to. It's going to be a lot of administrative overhead to us, and it's not really a visible stuff. So how we're going, that's why we have tools like Docker Compose, to quickly deploy multiple container images. So in this class we're going to see how we can use Docker Compose to deploy multiple applications with all the configuration that the application needs to run, and all the environment variables that requires it to run. You understand? So in this class we're going to see how we can the image we're going to use for this class is going to be Docker MongoDB container. So you can quickly go to hub.docker.com to look for search for MongoDB and go to the official image for MongoDB, and you can read up about more about MongoDB. MongoDB is simply a document database for storing data that are not related to each other. So data like, let me say, mobile apps or gaming application, those kind of data that are not related to each other. So you can read up more on it to understand how MongoDB works and the kind of data that we're going to use MongoDB to store. So here we can simply quickly copy this command and paste it on our terminal to run MongoDB. So you can see simply using Docker run to run it as a single container image, then specify the name of the container, then run it as in detached mode, and specify the tag of the MongoDB which you want to run. If you don't specify any tag, it's going to pick the latest image and run for you. Now this is the database. After deploying it, how are we going to manage the database? How are we going to manage the database? We have Mongo Express, which allows us to manage the database via a web-based that gives us a web-based platform to manage the database as an admin. You understand? So you can also read up more about it, and you can see how we can also deploy the Mongo Express container image and run it as a container. So if you copy this command, you see how it specify environment variables like the DB server, which is the MongoDB that we deployed here, and also if you scroll down, you see more environment variables that we can deploy, the DB password and username, all those things to connect to this DB, and also the port which that DB will be listening on. The default port for the MongoDB is 27017. So let me show you how we can quickly deploy these two containers using Docker Compose without running them just with Docker run like this. So I'm going to go to my terminal, and I've already installed Docker Compose. For you to use Docker Compose command, you have to install Docker Compose. So if I type Docker Compose on my terminal, Docker Compose can only be run as an administrator, as a root with privilege mode, high privilege mode. So if I do to install Docker Compose, you simply do docker dash compose. Okay, sorry, use new sudo app. Sorry, it's using the package manager app. Then sudo app install Docker Compose. Then I'm going to use -y here along the terminal, along the command, to quickly accept all the dependencies and requirements that is going to come with me. So you can see I already have the command installed on my system, and I have the newest version, so it's not going to go ahead and install it for me. But for us, it might take a little bit time to install, not just a few seconds to install this command as well. So I've already written my compose file, which I stored in compose.yaml. No, it can be any name. It's not like Dockerfile that I do it that it must have capital D and no extension. So this one, you can give it any name, but the extension must be .yaml. You understand? So I'm going to open this .yaml file and show you how it looks like. So the first thing you are going to see here is your version, which you are specifying the version of this of the compose. Then also the service. Here, this is the interesting part. Here is where we are specifying the containers which we want to run. So here, the first container that we want to run is MongoDB container. Notice how this set of commands are indented under this service, including the second container that we are running is indented under the service, show you that the service is the one managing these containers. So if I come here and specify my Mongo, my container name, which can be anything, here I'm giving it Mongo. Now let me show you what that container means. You remember, if you are doing Docker run, you're going to specify dash name, then you specify some name. It can be any name that you wish to. So that's what that name is for. Then here you now specify the container image which you want this Docker Compose to pull for you while running. So the image which you want to run is Mongo without any tag, which means I'm telling you to pull the latest image for me. That's what it means. Then here I'm going to restart this container in case if encounters any error, which means restart always. Then I specify my environment variable. So it's a DB. Obviously, it's going to have a username and also a password. So the username and password which I want to use is root, and also the password is going to be just example. Then just for this demonstration. Then moving on to the second container, which is the UI of the Docker of the MongoDB, the Mongo Express. So here I'm going to specify my container name, which is the Mongo Express. Then I specify my image name, which is the Mongo Express as well. It must not be the same. This container name, you can use anything that you want. You can even use Mongo UI. It's fine. You can use anything. So here you have your image which you want to pull from Docker, from the hub, which is Mongo Express without any tag, so which means it's going to pull the latest one. Then here I'm telling him to restart always. Now Mongo Express depends on MongoDB to start up, because when it's starting up, it will always tend to connect to the MongoDB, and each time it's not able to connect to it, it's going to fail. Now if I didn't use this restart always, my container is going to fail and it will not restart. It's going to stay there. So I don't want that. So there is some use cases that this Mongo Express might start up before the MongoDB, before it starts up, because it's just a UI. It doesn't have a lot to do though. So it's going to start up immediately, and if it doesn't see this guy, it's going to fail. So that's why I don't want to that's why I'm using the restart in this case. So then also we're having the port. The port for I want to access this guy externally from via port 8081, and the container port is 8081 as well. This will always be the same, but you can change this one as you want to anything that you want. Now, I did specify the Mongo port because the default is 27017, and I'm not accessing it from any web browser, and this guy is only connecting to it, so I don't need to specify it. So I will just leave it like that. Then the environment variable is I'll specify the username, the admin username of this MongoDB, which is the root I configured here, and also the admin password, which is the example I configured here, and this is what this guy is going to use and connect to this MongoDB. Now, to which DB do you want to connect to? I'll specify the MongoDB server, which is the container name of the MongoDB, which is this one. Now, if you come here, all these variables, you might be wondering, how am I getting these variables? I think I already showed you initially when I showed you the look at them here. So you can see the MongoDB port, the MongoDB server, the username and password, just like I showed you. So that's all that we need. I'm going to come here and quit. Don't need to save because I didn't make any change. I'm going to do sudo docker, then compose, then specify the file with -f. The file name is compose.yaml. Then I will bring up this container using start and bring up this container using the command up. Now, if I leave this thing like this, the logs of these containers while starting up is going to clock my terminals. I don't want that, so I'm going to run it in detach mode using the -d. So it's going to go ahead and start putting the first container image I have on my service, which is the MongoDB. When it's done, you start extracting this image for me, and it will run the container. So to run the container, you can see the latest image you put was the MongoDB latest, because I didn't specify in tag. Do the same thing for the Mongo Express as well. It will go ahead and it's done. Put the Mongo Express latest image, and this image is up and running. For me to verify that, I will do sudo docker ps, and I have my two containers up and running. Now, my Mongo Express is listening on 8081 like I specified. I noticed I didn't specify the 20017, and it's also automatically picked that because that's the default port, but I can't access it via public because I don't have any need to access the DB via public. I only want to access it using the UI of the Mongo Express. Now, the Mongo Express, while we are configuring the username and password, we only configured for the DB itself, the MongoDB, which is this one. And they also configured the username and password which the Mongo Express is going to use to connect to the DB, right? But we didn't configure the username and password that we are going to use and log into the Mongo Express, which means it has a default username and password. I already know that, but what if we didn't know that? We can simply do sudo docker, then logs to find out. Then we can come here, copy this container ID or the container name, this one, then paste it. Then you can see, welcome to Mongo Express. This server will accept any connection from anyone. You understand? Then the basic authentication credentials are admin and pass. So we can use this guy, this admin, which is the username, and the pass, which is the password, to log in to this guy. You can change this default configuration via the environment variable that we specify. So if you still go here, you can see the basic authentication username, you can specify it, and basic authentication password, specify the one that you want, just like the way we did it on the config file as well. So I'm going to come here on my browser. I'm going to come here and copy this public IP. I've already permitted this 8081 on this web browser. If I type 8081, I should see it's coming from anywhere, any source, and the 8081. For you, if you're running it locally on your system, you don't need to go to this AWS console. Simply access it using your local host, then colon 8081 to access it. So I'm going to simply go to my browser. I'm going to open this in a private browser, and I'm going to come here, http colon, paste my username 8081. Then it's going to prompt me to enter the username and password, which is admin, then the password, which is pass. Then you're simply going to log in to this database for me. So you can see the Mongo Express. We are currently seeing the default databases that we have on this DB currently. So we have the admin, the config, and the local. And we can go ahead and create a new DB. Let me call it my DB. For example, I can create a new DB, and you can see that DB here. We can click on it, and you can see you can create collections. You can see usernames. You can use usernames to create collections. You understand? You can have your collection here as well. You can use this connection string, give it to your developer and the username. Configure a different username and password, give it to your developer, and they will start give it the collection name and the DB name. They will connect to it, and they start inputting key values files on this database. So that's it. Let me show you how you can tear down this container down. If I come here, do sudo docker compose, and do specify the file which you want to, the compose file, then use the command down. So it's going to bring down this container for me. It's going to tear down all the configuration that we did. So if you created any Docker network or whatsoever, is going to tear down this container and delete the container for me, aside from the image actually. So I'm going to do sudo docker down, and it's going to bring down this container for me. So you can see removing the network, removing everything, all the configuration that we made using the Docker file. So if I do sudo docker ps, let me use -all. You can see there is nothing here again aside from the Docker images that we have. So the Docker images are still here. So with this, it will bring us to the end of this class. Thank you for watching this video. Like and subscribe to my channel not to miss any other video as I post. See you in my next video.